If you didn't get the lesson last week, that's okay, because that's actually online. It's on the church's YouTube page. It's on the website, so you can look those things up. If you have trouble finding it, let me know. But before you look for that, I'm going to do a quick little summary of last week. Last week we talked about something called the Kalam Cosmological argument. And this is basically an argument for the existence of God. One of the reasons why we know God exists. And here's how the Kalam Cosmological argument goes. It goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Now, we talked about what that means and how essentially things don't just pop into existence. They don't appear out of nowhere. Everything has a cause. The chair that you're sitting on, I used a pizza a number of times in illustrations. Some of you guys remember that part. So the pizza was caused by the pizza maker. You know, the chair was caused by the chair maker. This building was caused by the people who decided to have it built and the builders who built it. You have a cause. It's your parents. And they have a cause, which is their parents, and so on and so forth. So the universe has a beginning. So therefore something caused it to happen. But then that leads to a very interesting question. What is that cause? Because the universe, as one of you guys pointed out very accurately, the universe is everything. So if everything is in the universe, that means that something outside of the universe had to have caused it. And so what would be the features of that universe? Well, the features of that cause, Whatever created the universe, the cause of it has to be uncreated. That means nothing else made it. It's immaterial. It's not made of matter. It's timeless. It doesn't exist within our space-time continuum. It's spaceless. It doesn't fit inside this universe. And it is all-powerful because all the energy in the universe is in there. So whatever made it has more energy than the universe. And those six things all fit within our definition of God that we talked about, how God is uncreated, immaterial, timeless, spaceless, all-powerful, and he created everything. Now, one of the things I talked about is we didn't actually talk this, I'm jumping ahead of myself. This argument doesn't talk about him being all-knowing or morally perfect. That actually goes into two other arguments that you can look up called the moral argument. And I forget the other one off the top of my head at the moment. Apologize. You can look those up later, but we only had time last week to talk about the cosmological argument. Now, one thing that I didn't get to talk, or that was mentioned last week was, this doesn't prove that Christianity is true. This doesn't mean that you have to believe in Christianity. All this does is basically prove that we need God to create the universe. It can't create itself. It can't happen by accident. It has to have a cause. That's what this argument proves. Now, this week, what we're going to talk about is, why is it necessary to believe in Jesus? So last week we talked about why we believe in God. This week we're talking about, okay, why do we have to believe in Jesus? You ever thought about that before? Jesus is the unique feature of Christianity. Without Jesus, Christianity is pretty much nothing. We don't got much else. We got Jesus. We might have some fun, moral stories, but that's about it. So why is it necessary to believe in Jesus? And that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to hit you guys with a lot of fancy words today. So if you're real ambitious, you can write those down and you can impress your teachers and your friends. Maybe just your teachers, but it'll be really good. Trust me, you want to know these words because these are going to be very important, not just in this lesson, but in things that you deal with in the rest of your life. Adults, I would encourage you to do the same as well. So, the first phrase that I want you guys to learn tonight is this. Objectively true. Something that is objectively true is true regardless of the situation, personal belief, time in history, or cultural context. Basically, objectively true means it's always true. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Objectively true. Let me give you an example. Is it objectively true that the earth has gravity? Yes. Yes, it is. Oh, Bill just proved it. He dropped his pen. The earth has gravity. That is objectively true. Doesn't matter what time in history, doesn't matter what I personally believe, doesn't matter what my skin color is, it doesn't matter what building we're in at the time, it is always true that the earth has gravity. Right? That is objectively true. Keep that in mind. That phrase is going to be very important tonight. Objectively true. Now the next fancy phrase that I'm going to teach you guys tonight is this. Christian particularism. Ooh. Christian particularism. The definition of Christian particularism is Christians are right and everyone else is wrong. A lot of you are squirming in your seats right now. Wait, what? What? Christians are right and everyone else is wrong? Now, let me give a little caveat. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that just a Christian is right about everything. So like Matt Crossman isn't always right about everything because he's a Christian. That's not what we're saying. Within the context of religion, we believe that our faith is right and all other faiths are wrong. Some of you are like, okay, yeah. And some of you are like, can he say that? Are the police going to come? Are we all in trouble for listening? See, Christianity actually believes that it is right and all other beliefs are wrong. We believe that atheists are wrong. We believe that Buddhists are wrong. We believe that Hindus are wrong. We believe that Muslims are wrong. We believe that Mormons are wrong. We believe that Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong. We believe that Native American religions are wrong. We believe these things are wrong. We believe that Christianity is right and these things are wrong. And there's tension is rising in the room. Some of you guys are like, you can't say that. It's like I'd get kicked out of school if I said that. It's like, well, I want to tell you guys, think about this. The opposite view is something called pluralism. And pluralism is this. Basically, I'm sorry, I got getting ahead of myself. Pluralism is basically saying that one of two things, okay? That either A, all religions are equally wrong, or all religions are equally right. So you might have heard it this way. All religions essentially teach the same thing, that you're supposed to love each other. You guys ever heard some variation of that? Does that sound familiar? Have you heard something like that? All religions basically teach the same thing. Or you might have the opposite view, that all religions are just wrong. They all just believe in the flying spaghetti monster. They believe in their particular sky god, and they argue over their sky gods, and all your religions are just silly for believing that. Those are the two opposite ends of pluralism. Okay? You guys tracking with me so far? All right. Now, so these two ideas, pluralism and particularism. Particularism is basically saying that this thing is right while something else is wrong. Pluralism is saying that everything is right or everything is wrong. Right? Make sense? Something particular says this is right and this is wrong. So it doesn't necessarily have to do within the context of religion. I'll give you an example. A particular answer to a math problem. What is 2 plus 2? Is it 5? What is it then? What? 4. Thank you. Okay, I was getting a little worried there. Okay? It's 4. Wow, you guys are arrogant. Who are you to tell me that 4 is the only right answer? I am a pluralist when it comes to math. And I believe that all answers are equally valid. Exactly. Exactly. So, that is something that is particular, the answer to a math problem. I want you guys to think about something else that might be particular. What ideas you might have? What else could be particular? Yeah, give it a shot. What do you got? The what? Okay, in what sense? Because the sky does change color, right? Oh, yeah, darn it. Yeah. No, I think you're on the right track. How about, so how do we get the color of the sky?
Wait, what do you mean, like viewing the color, or like?
How do the colors change? What's the main factors? The sun, right? So what's particular is that the color of the sky is dependent on the angle of the sun. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yes, you're on the right track. Okay, good. I see a hand in the back. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah, Alexis. Right, Alexis?
Yes.
I'm going to get it before the night's out.
So, like, this is more like a question, so
Okay.
you got me confused. So,
Okay.
are we talking about pluralism right now, or?
No, we're talking about particularism, things that are right, okay? And that there isn't another option.
So pluralism is things that are wrong, particularism is things that are right.
Particularism is saying that only one thing is right. Saying that all other options are wrong. Pluralism is saying that all the options are right. Okay. This one's a little bit harder. Yeah, go ahead.
Like particularism, like the spelling of a word, determining the right spelling.
Ah, okay, there you go. So the spelling of a word. Yes, you cannot be pluralistic with how you spell words according to your teacher. You have to give the right spelling, despite the fact that it doesn't follow phonics. And it really doesn't even follow English grammar, because we got so many words from different languages, and it just drives me absolutely bonkers. I am just a horrible speller, and that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But yes, how you spell is particular. So, here's where I'm going with this. We're going to look at how the idea that, first off, we're going to look at the idea that, I'm skipping that part. All religions are equally wrong. So we're going to start out with this one. This claim that all religions are equally wrong. This is the first part of pluralism. Okay? The idea that you got all the options are either all right or either all wrong. And one side is that all religions are equally wrong. And here's how the argument typically goes. Religions are culturally relative. That means they're specific to their culture. If you're born in one place, that's your religion. If you're born in another place, it's your religion. So if you were born in Pakistan, you would have been a Muslim. Since you were born here in America, you are a Christian. Because religious beliefs are culturally relative, they are not objectively true. This is the argument that people make. They say, look, Christianity is not true, and neither are any of the religions, because the only reason you believe those religions is because of where you were born. So they're all wrong. It just happens to be where you're placed. In the same way that you believe the correct song to sing on your birthday is Happy Birthday, is because of your cultural context, the way you were raised. And so therefore, your belief about what to sing for Happy Birthday is no more true or right than somebody else's song in another country. And it's the same for religion. The only reason you believe it is because of where you were born. Okay? This is actually what's known as a logical fallacy. A logical fallacy is basically an argument that doesn't make any sense. Some of you actually apparently know this. I'm seeing like some smiles and stuff like, oh yeah, I know this stuff. Okay, so here's the logical fallacy that's being stated. It's called the genetic fallacy. And that's trying to invalidate a view by showing how a person came to hold that view. Okay, you're trying to say that, look, your view of Christianity, believe that Christianity is true, is the only reason you believe that is because of where you were born. You're trying to invalidate the view simply by where you were born. Well, there's a little bit of a problem with that. The truth of a view is independent of how a person came to believe it. It's irrelevant where I was born. That doesn't determine if something's true. Let me give you an example. If you were born in ancient Greece, you would have believed that the sun rotated around the earth. But because you were born in America in the early 2000s, you believe that the earth rotates around the sun. No, that's not true. It's just because you were born here in America at this time. Do you see the problem?
Yeah.
You're saying that the only reason, that doesn't invalidate the truth of the statement, does it? So, whether or not we were born in America, or in Pakistan, or Ireland, or Brazil, or Nigeria, wherever it may be, or Antarctica, you probably weren't born in Antarctica. Was anybody born in Antarctica? That would be very strange. Okay, put your hand out, you liars. Yeah. That doesn't prove whether something is true or false. Now, you might be more inclined to believe something, but that doesn't mean that it's true or false. It's a logical fallacy. Okay? The other problem is this. A pluralist is guilty of the same thing. What they're accusing you of as a Christian, saying, well, the only reason you believe in Christ is because you were born in America, I can simply turn around and say, well, the only reason you believe all religions are wrong is because you were born in America. So does that determine whether or not their belief is true? Well, no. It's a logical fallacy. You guys tracking with me? Stay along? Okay, cool. So let's go to the next end of the argument of pluralism. Anyone who believes that Christianity is true and every other view is wrong is arrogant. Therefore, Christianity is false. Now, how many of you guys have heard something like this before? Does this sound a little bit familiar? Maybe you've talked to friends at school, or maybe you heard a teacher, maybe you heard it on the news or on a TV show. Maybe? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I have a feeling you probably will at some point. This is a very common attack that's given to Christians. Anyone who believes that Christianity is true is arrogant. Well, little problem with that. First off, this is a second logical fallacy. And this is the fun one. I like to say the name of this one. This is called the argument ad hominem. Argument ad hominem. I think I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I'm going to say it this way because that's how I like to say it. Argument ad hominem. This is basically trying to say, I don't know why it says, trying to say someone's view is false by attacking his personal character. You're arrogant, therefore your view is wrong. Well, okay. A little problem with that. Let me give you an example of why that's wrong. If somebody was hugely arrogant and just an absolute jerk, and they came up with a cure for cancer, would, because they're a jerk, make the cure for cancer invalid? No. No, it wouldn't. The truth of a view is independent of the character of the person who holds it. Just because someone believes something, just because someone acts a certain way doesn't mean what they believe is necessarily wrong. Now, they could be wrong, but whether or not they're a jerk or a really nice person is irrelevant. The truth is the truth. The truth is objectively true, whether or not a person is nice or a jerk. There's another problem. The pluralist is guilty of the same thing again, because they believe that the Christian is wrong. And so they are guilty of the very thing that they are accusing the Christian of. They're saying, Christians, you believe you're right and other people are wrong, therefore you're arrogant. So you turn right over to the pluralist and say, well, you believe that I'm wrong and you're right. Doesn't that mean you're also arrogant and therefore wrong? One other thing on this pluralism. Assuming all religions are equally right assumes that they all teach the same thing. I mentioned this before, but think about it. Have you ever heard something like this? That all religions basically teach the same thing. We're supposed to love each other. We're supposed to be nice. One of the old statements that people used to make when I was growing up is, we're all trying to get to the top of the same mountain. We're just taking different trails. The problem with that is that they don't teach the same thing. Let me give you an example. Neither of these are Christianity. We've got Islam and Buddhism here. Islam teaches that there is a personal God, which means he has a character, he is an individual, that God created the world, that man is sinful, that man will spend eternity in heaven or hell, and that salvation is by faith and good works. Buddhism teaches that God is not personal, that the world was not created, that man is not sinful, man does not have an enduring self, so when you die, whatever makes you disappears, and that the goal is annihilation of the self. You're trying to get rid of all your personal desires and personality. These two things are what we call mutually exclusive. Another fancy word. The truth of one claim eliminates the possibility of the other. So if I say, I am a bachelor, I cannot also be married. Right? I can't be a married bachelor. Because being married means I'm no longer a bachelor. And being a bachelor means I'm not married. These two terms are mutually exclusive. One eliminates the other. So, going back to the chart here, God cannot be both personal and not personal at the same time. God either created the world or he didn't. Both of these religions are particular. They believe that they are right and that the other side is wrong. See, a lot of times people lob this thing at Christians and say, oh, you guys always think that you're the only ones that are right and everybody else is wrong. That's arrogant. That's every religion. They all believe that they're right and the other ones are wrong. In fact, Buddhism was created by a guy named what? Anybody know? Give you a hint, it's in the name. Buddha, yeah. And if you know his story, he rejected his parents' faith, which was Hinduism. And he rejected two core beliefs of Hinduism. The leadership of the Vedas, which were the priests of that world, and the fact of the caste system in Hinduism, which is basically saying that certain people fall into certain categories and they can't change out between them within their own lives. He rejected these two main beliefs of Hinduism and said those are both wrong. And he created the Buddhist religion. Okay? Both are particular. And the statements they make are mutually exclusive. Both cannot be right. Okay? I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys. I have a point. Yes, question?
Not a question, a comment.
Comment away.
I think that the Islamic faith and the Christian faith are similar, except on the chart, except for the last thing.
I think you're right. There are similarities between Islam and Christianity, also in the same way that Judaism and Christianity are similar, but there are particular things that are very different, and we're about to get into one of those extremely particular things, because all religions are superficially similar and fundamentally different. There are things on the surface that seem the same. Most religions talk about love in one way or another. Most religions talk about being good in one way or another. But when we get down into the fundamentals of what we actually mean by love, what we actually mean by good, what we actually mean by God, if you were with me last week, we had that huge definition of God. Those things are very different, and those are the things that are important. So, one of the big differences is what Jesus said about himself. Sometimes people like to say, well, Jesus was just a great religious teacher. He was a good moral man. Well, a little bit of a problem with that. Because Jesus made claims about himself that were particular. Okay? Here's one of the first ones he said. He claimed to be the Messiah. The Jewish people were waiting for a Messiah, for a leader, someone to save them. They thought he was going to be this religious leader who was also a conquering king. And he was going to free them and save them and bring about a religious revival. Well, Jesus made some particular claims. In Zechariah 9:9, it says this is in the Old Testament. This is a prophecy about the Messiah. Behold, your kind is coming to you. That's not supposed to be kind, that's king. Your king is coming to you. Righteousness and have salvation is he. Humble and mounted on a donkey. On a colt. The foal of a donkey. What did Jesus ride into Jerusalem? Does anybody know? Yes, sir. No. A donkey. Jesus did this on purpose. Simply by doing that, when he rode into Jerusalem right before he was crucified, he rode in on a donkey because he was fulfilling this prophecy. He was making the claim that he was the Messiah. The next thing that he claimed was to be the Son of God. He claimed this. So, Matthew 21:33. Hear another parable. There was a master of a house who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a winepress in it and built a tower and leased it to tenants and went into another country. When the season for fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to get his fruit. And the tenants took his servants and beat one, killed another, and stoned another. Again he sent other servants, more than the first, and they did the same to them. Finally he sent his son to them, saying, "They will respect my son." But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and have his inheritance." And they took him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. When therefore the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to the tenants? They said to him, "He will put those wretches into a miserable death and let out the vineyard to other tenants who will give him the fruits in their season." By telling this story, Jesus is actually making the claim to be the son of the owner of the vineyard. These were classical images that the Jewish people would use all the time. Israel, their nation, they would usually call a vineyard. And then they would call the person who owned the vineyard the Father, meaning God. And so Jesus is making the claim that, look, God sent people to the people taking care of the vineyard, which was the Jewish people. And the people he sent were the prophets. But then God sent someone specific, his son. And Jesus was making the claim to be that son. Okay? So he claimed to be God's son. The next thing he claimed was this. He claimed to be the Son of Man. The Son of Man. Now, this is very specific, okay? How many of you guys have ever heard of this before? The Son of Man. Okay? Jesus actually refers to himself more often as the Son of Man rather than the Son of God. He calls himself that many more times than the Son of God, which might sound kind of strange, but let me explain why. Go now to Daniel chapter 7. This is a vision Daniel had. He says this, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days," that is God, "and was presented before him. And he was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, and that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom is one that shall not be destroyed." If you don't have this passage marked in your Bible, if you got your personal Bible with you, you need to mark this passage. This is why Jesus made the claim to be the Son of Man. This is why he repeatedly called himself that, the Son of Man, because he was making the claim that he was this prophesied eternal ruler. Okay? Next, Jesus claimed he was God. Now, this is one of the most contentious things. Jesus claimed he was God. In John 8, 48 through 59, he's having an argument with a bunch of Pharisees. They're asking him who he is, who does he claim to be, and then he talks about Abraham, which was the founding father of the Jewish people. He was the one that God made a promise to and said, "If you follow me, I will make you into a great nation, and through your children, the world will be saved." Through one of your descendants, the world will be saved. And they said, "How can you talk about Abraham as if you knew him? You're not even 33 years old yet." And Jesus says, "Before Abraham was, I am." Does that sound familiar to anybody? I am. Yes, where's it from?
God is called the great I am.
Yes, he was. And in fact, specifically, in Exodus chapter 3, verse 13. If you know the story of Moses, anybody know Moses? He was put as a baby in a basket, was raised as an Egyptian, had to leave, became a shepherd, and he started talking to a what? Burning bush. Yes, there's a burning bush, and the bush wasn't consumed. And he started talking to it because the bush started talking to him. And the bush said that it was God speaking to him. And Moses is like, that's new. And when God told him, I want you to go to Egypt, I want you to free my people. And Moses said, who should I tell the Pharaoh sent me? And God said, tell Pharaoh that I am has sent you. So when Jesus says, before Abraham was, I am, he was claiming to be God. And we know that the Pharisees understood this because if you continue reading in that passage, the next thing that they do is they pick up stones to stone him to death because he was claiming to be God, and that was blasphemy. And the punishment for blasphemy was death. So Jesus claimed to be God. Last thing. Jesus claimed to be the only way to God. There's no other way to God. There is no other path up the mountain. There's only one way. That is Jesus. John 14:6, Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. There's no other way. Not through Buddha, not through Muhammad, not through Krishna. No one else. Only Jesus. That's it. That's the only option. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Another passage you should have underlined. So, what does this do for us when we're talking to people about our faith? Well, here's the thing. Jesus making these claims means that there's only three options. They are particular claims. They are exclusive. So when he makes these statements, there's only three possibilities. He's either a liar, he's either a lunatic, or he's the Lord. If he claims to be God, if he claims that he is the Son of God, maybe he's lying. Maybe he just wants a lot of attention, wants a lot of fame. Well, I guess that could be true, but there's a little bit of a problem. Typically, you don't die for your lies. At any point during his trial, he could have just said, yeah, guys, it was all, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but, I was lying. No big deal. I'll go to jail for a while. I'll tell everybody I was lying. It's cool. You don't typically go and die for your lies. Okay? Well, maybe he was a crazy person. He's a lunatic. Like, yeah, I believe I am God. I'm God. Yeah. I made it. No, totally, man. Yeah, that's me. He's a psycho. He needs to be taken to a padded room. I don't know. The problem is that usually psychotic people don't make sense. They say a lot of contradictory things. And I would say, try to find a contradiction in the things that Jesus said. I can't find it. So the other option is that he actually was who he said he was, which is the Lord. A lot of people want to try to say, well, Jesus was kind of a liar. He wasn't actually the Son of God, but he had a lot of good moral things to say. What? What? Like, he said he was God. That's a lie. That's a pretty big lie. Like, typically people who say, yeah, I'm God, like, we call the police on them. Because they're crazy. Whether they know it or not. You would say, well, yeah, I mean, he was a crazy guy and he tried to break into my house and, like, steal all my stuff. But, he had some good moral teachings. It doesn't work that way. C.S. Lewis is the one who came up with this. He wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. He talked about one of his books, The Screwtape Letters, in an online series. You should check it out if you haven't already. He's the one who came up with this idea. The way he puts it is this. He's either a liar, like a devil of hell. He's like a lunatic, on par with a man who says he's a poached egg, or he's actually the Lord that he claims to be. These are mutually exclusive. You have to pick one or the other. You can't stand in the middle. You either believe he's the Lord or you don't. That's it. Let's pray. God, thank you so much that you really made it kind of simple. That we can choose to believe in your Son or not. I pray, God, that we would know that and trust in it. It's in your name we pray. Amen.